Hey squad, TITOBODS here. Everybody is actually talking about Miyamoto, Ramesses, and the other swordsmen. But what if I told you there is actually one more March that is one of the strongest swordsmen maybe right now? And actually it is kind of a sleeper build in a way because not everyone is actually using this March, and I have already showed you in this video right here half of the coin, which is another build for Pyrrhus. Today I'm going to show you now a different side, which is going to be Pyrrhus, Confucius, and Charlemagne. And this might be secretly one of the most explosive yet broken PvP lineup in Age of Empires Mobile. And I'm going to break down the exact rings, gems, mounts, and adornments or ornaments that I used to make this build work. Welcome back squad, this is the exact build that I am using right now. I have been using this for a while now, maybe a few days straight, and I am really liking what I have here rather than the first one that we have. But this is going to be exactly how you should build it, or maybe change a thing or two in order for this to work. So first off, I want to talk to you guys about how each individual hero will work as a sync for this build. First, I want to talk about Pyrrhus. Now, his skill, the commander skill, is actually pretty straightforward. Let's focus on your Thundering Trample here. This is strategy damage. Each time this activates, you'll have 35% chance, which is a little bit higher than your regular activation chance, to actually add another activations. Now, it says here in the enclosed statement that it will activate up to 4 activations per turn. Now, per turn is every 3 seconds because there is 1 second for each hero per turn. So, in a turn, there is 3 seconds, sharing the limit with other additional activation effects. Now, I assume that these effects will only go for heroes and not everyone in the march. Having that said, the first thing you need to think of is to actually avoid other skills that has activations. Now, how would you know that? The skill types has all activations. Active skill has an activation. Turn-based skill has an activation, but it is a guaranteed activation. Now, secondary strike, you don't really need to think about it unless you're going to use a very wrong ring. And there is also passive. Now, the passive one here is pretty conditional. Okay, it says here that activated under certain conditions. So it's always going to be there. No need to actually wait 9 seconds and then it will activate. No. So you have to avoid these 3 skill types here, the active, turn-based, and secondary, for this actually to work and to have that 4 activations maxed out. And I have proven this. I have tried using a ring with a turn-based skill versus using a ring without a turn-based skill. So let me just show you our former build in this video right here. If you're going to check this out on your screen, that is actually our former build when I have first tried on Pyrrhus, and it changed drastically when it comes to the damage. Also, I did try using those rings on that video in this March and change it to what I have right now, and I did have way better value. If you have a ring that has an activations like a turn-based skill activations or a regular skill active activations, make sure that you avoid to use them on Pyrrhus, because your rings share the exact same skill types as your hero has. So it is actually considered also as part of your hero skill. So it's safe not to have a turn-based skill, secondary strike skill, or an active skill for your Pyrrhus when it comes to also the rings. So that's why our skills here for your customizable skills are actually Expedition Phalanx and your Strategy Mastership, because they both boost your Pyrrhus and they both are passive skills. Now, for your Confucius, you have to understand first, of course, is the signature skill, because we don't really need the commander skill. Now, you can see here on our Confucius, we really don't have yet the stars. So I really need a little bit of help. If you guys are in my position, some of you guys who are spenders would rather have a choice to actually spend on your legendary hero medals. And if you need help with getting the best value for your purchases and have a cashback on top of it, this is where our partner for today comes in. And here's Anne to help you out with this one.
Eneba is your go-to digital store for games, gift cards, game points, and top-ups. And with TITOBODS special link, you can get up to 20% cashback on Age of Empires Mobile products, only on the marketplace. Eneba, the fastest growing marketplace for gamers. Ahoo!
Do not forget, if you purchase using our link, you will also help TITOBODS out with your purchases, and in a way, of course, may help us do more for the community with our videos. So it applies disciplined effect to your troops for 6 seconds. Now 6 seconds is 2 turns. So you go on the 3rd turn, you can be able to actually activate it again. So while disciplined is active, it says here, each time your troop takes skill damage. So every time your troops takes skill damage, the more heroes in the march of your opponent that deals skill damage, the better your Confucius will perform. For example, you have a Lubu and a Zhaoyan. This will perform better. If, for example, you have Cyrus, you have Vlad, and you have Mansa Musa, because players do intend to use this sometimes, this will perform better because there are 3 heroes right away there, can actually give you an assurance for 1 turn that there will be almost 3 heroes or 3 skill damages that you will actually receive. Now it can also work in a way that against against a Ramesses. Since Ramesses, soon as his activations of his commander skill hits, you will receive 1 instance of his signature skill every second, and this will be even better. So you will have more of those activations soon as you're if you are up against those skill type heroes like Ramesses, and of course, as I've said, marches with multiple heroes that actually deals damage. It excludes the damage or continuous damage effects like your burn, like your route effect, so it will not be included in this one. The only downside of this is the amount of the recovery rate, which is pretty low. But the good side about this is you have a strategy bonus, and this can actually occur 2 times per second. That is what is actually best about this one. Now another one is every 16 times, which is, since I am still at 3 stars, it only is at 16 times. But as soon as you have 5-star Confucius, you will only bring this down to 9 times. So every 16 times, this hero triggers the unit recovery effect, which is, as I've said, in 9 times, it's going to be way better. The hero with the highest strategy in the troop, which is, of course, Pyrrhus, immediately activates their signature active skills. Now that is good. Triggers every 6 seconds. Now why is this significant? Although in that 6 seconds, which is, as I've said, 2 turns, so in that 2 turns, you can actually gain again the 9 times activation. So there is another chance that you will activate again right away the skills of Pyrrhus on the next activation of this skill after 6 seconds. So effective when serving as second in command. Now second in command is going to be confusing for some. We have cleared this in the Pioneer server. We have also cleared this with the support, that the second in command means any hero or any slot after the commander, which is second or third slot, both are second in command. The only time that the position really matters after your commander is actually if your skill has like your warrior scheme condition, which will trigger the next hero after that hero. So it says here, after entering the battle, increases the skill's trigger chance by 65%. The first initial turn of this hero, so you will have right away that skill activation. So each time your troop activates a signature active skill, so your troops, meaning not just Confucius, increases this skill trigger chance by 1.50%, which is stacks to 4 times, and each stacks, and 1 stack every 3 seconds, which is every turn. So you need 4 turns in order for this to max out. The important thing here is what's next. Reduces your troops damage by 1%, and good thing, it also stacks up to 8 times, which is going to make it 8% in total once it's maxed. And also, the good thing here is the strategy bonus. So the longer you are in the fight, the tankier you will get. So that's how the discipline works. Now talking about the Spring Breeze here, which is, I think this should always be in here. It recovers your troops 140% with pretty decent standard amount of healing. Now the best thing, another one, is the strategy bonus. Why is it one of the best things to have? Because some heroes, some healers, doesn't have a strategy bonus on their recovery rate. And strategy bonus will add additional percentages on your recovery rate, which will give you more healing. And now this also reduces the might taken. Take note of that, which is 12% for 3 seconds. So as this activates, you will have that might damage taken reduced by 12% for 3 seconds. Now this is also one of the things why I say that Confucius is really good also against might heroes. So this is one of the reasons why this is pretty tanky. Now Now, against, of course, strategy heroes, that is another conversation on its own. Now, this skill has a 50% chance also to recover your troops unit an additional 2 times per activation. And the recovery rate is pretty low at 60%, but it can actually double to 120% plus a strategy bonus again, which will give you another extra healing, which for me is, I think, pretty damn good. Now, Peaceful Haven. Since you have a hero that has multiple activations of heal, and Peaceful Haven is here, it will activate every time you do multiple activations of healing here, which will almost certainly place your troops in a state of eternal peaceful haven. So it will work also if you have 2 heroes in the lineup who has Peaceful Haven. I think I already explained that one, but it won't stack. As I've said, you will only be placed into state of eternal peaceful haven, which you will have 20% of damage reduction for almost the entire duration of the fight, which makes it even better. Now, so that's how your Confucius work. Now, what does your Charlemagne bring to the table? As I've said, he has this Sacred Crown, which is a pretty good passive skill. As I've said, when he is second in command here, he is actually the one who proves that second in command is not just second in command, but rather you can be second and third in the march. Your commander will immediately use their signature active skill once, okay? But with the skill damage also increased by 47.50%. Strategy bonus added, which is pretty good, so it can be more than 50% extra damage. And also the commander's strategy and might, which is the most important thing here, really is strategy. It can give you 35. And for me, one of the important thing here also is having your sowing discord. Number 1, it will give you damage. Number 2, it has also strategy, so more damage. And the best part here is that you will steal 30 strategy from the enemy commander to your commander, which will make your commander a little bit, well, stronger because of the added strategy. But the best part about this one is, since your enemy is going to lose strategy, that enemy or that opponent of yours will be vulnerable for just a little bit with the 30 strategy taken from them and taken from them for 3 seconds. So if you hit your Thundering Trample during those 3 seconds with the extra strategy, and your opponent doesn't have that extra strategy, or they will have less strategy, which means less strategy defense for the opponent, so you will have a better damage overall against that opponent. So that's why sowing discord for me is pretty important. Now you can also use another skill here, which is Bloodthirst, for more, let's say, more healing or a little bit more damage plus healing. But I won't really I'm not really into using that right now because I really want that debuff. Sometimes, you know, during this meta, during this stage, the meta of debuff is actually pretty important. So for me, I think sowing discord and or the Bloodthirst will actually work for this march. Now let's talk rings. What do we have for the rings? This is my recommendations for the rings because this is my rings. So it's only safe to say that one of the offensive and defensive in one ring, which is Lofty Mountain. So for me, go for Lofty Mountain instead of your Tranquil Water. And of course, your Confucius here has the Skyward Knight because he will not really deal damage. And of course, for your ring, for Pyrrhus, as I've said, do not give Pyrrhus any ring that has any type of skill, really, to be honest, so that you're sure that you can activate 4 at least once every fight. You know, it's really important to not have any activation on his side for Pyrrhus. So those are the rings. Now, what are the other rings that you can use in here? So before, I was using an Everflame Wing rings on my Pyrrhus, but as I've said, it has a turn-based skill. So what I did, I switched the Ring of Lofty Mountain from Charlemagne to Pyrrhus, removed the Ring of Serpent, and placed the Ring of Everflame Wings to Charlemagne. It worked, but as I've said, it's not the best because your Charlemagne, it's already on the 3rd slot when it activates the skills, and of course the silence will also activate during those times, and you really need it maybe in front, but it still works as how it should be. So make sure that your Lofty Mountain is with Pyrrhus, your Everflame Wing is with Charlemagne if you're going to completely copy this build and only using another ring. So is Azure Moon ring good with Pyrrhus? I would say really not, to be honest. I don't want you guys to use the Azure Moon ring here anymore. As I've said, you need just to have no rings or no other activations for Pyrrhus. So I would rather have this or as I've said, the Lofty Mountain, and then maybe use the other rings on your other heroes that you want. Now, for example, TITOBODS, I don't have like the ring of Skyward, and I'm on a tight budget. So if you're on a tight budget, of course, I think you already have the ring of Serpent. Then you mostly need, for me, at least one legendary ring. Choose the ring of Lofty Mountain. And then another ring that you can do, so maybe you can be a little bit more defensive if you want. You can use a ring of Falcon on Confucius, so you will be a little bit tankier. So you can also use that or do that. Or if you want another damage focused ring, you can go for the ring of Deer, but I don't really recommend it. So, and also if you want to be fully pledged on actually having more damage for your heroes, what you can do is to have your ring of Divine Warrior. You can use it on Confucius, and then Lofty Mountain on Pyrrhus, and then Skyward Knight on your Charlemagne. You can also do that. Now, another questions are, of course, the gems. So here are my current gems right now, and the gems that for me makes sense. So I have health gems here. I have, of course, strategy gems here, active skills. Then we have an attack, strategy, and an active skill. So it's pretty much combination. Now, what do we have on our Confucius? So I basically focused on troop capacity. Then, of course, strategy again. Why do I focus strategy more on Confucius rather than Charlemagne? Because Confucius will actually define or give us more healing. So more strategy will give you another extra healing because of the strategy bonus. Then you can see here we have healing gems, which will give us a little bit more healing. Then we have defense. Always, though, I have at least one defense on my gems. Then strategy again and healing again. So it's pretty standard for my rings or for my gems. Now another troop capacity in here, and then all attributes. Now I could also use another strategy gems here, but it's really hard to get a lot of strategy gems. So what I did is rather have my other all attributes gems in here to actually fit the bill. And in a way, this strategy or this all attribute gems helps with your might defense because it has armor for your strategy or attributes. So it has armor also in there, 5 armor, 5 might, 5 strategy, 5 siege. That's what this will add. So every attributes that you have. So you will have extra defense on might. Then since you have strategy here, another extra defense against strategy plus offense for your strategy also, and strategy bonus. So it only makes sense to use all attributes in here. Plus another thing is that this hero is using the Lofty Mountain, right? And in the Lofty Mountain armor bonus, which is also available in your all attributes gem, will actually have an addition for your might damage taken. So this is reduction again. So as you can see, I built this March mostly for might damage heroes. So as I've said, this hero will be neutral against strategy heroes, but will be strong against might heroes. And also after that, the strategy bonus. So your all attributes gem will really help also with the rings, not only the skills of your troops. Now, what do we have here on our infinite land is another hero active skill gem. If you have bloodthirst, you want more healing, you can change this to healing gems. Now we have another extra attack here, which I think is pretty good, to be honest, since I already have like 3 healths. You can use health here instead of attack, but the attack one is a little bit higher that I have. So yeah, I think I did choose this because it's a higher rank attack gems and a little bit better I think on my other health gems. So as you can see here, we also did give this hero a little bit push when it comes to armor. So not only for defense here, as I've said, it will also increase the defense reduction or might defense reduction from your Lofty Mountain. And then of course normal attack. I always do have at least one normal attack. So those are the gems that I have that maybe you can also use to your advantage. For the talents, what I have for my talents are actually mostly centered on the regular talents or standard talents with the quick allocate. Now the only thing that you will always check after quick allocations is make sure that all the strategy for your Pyrrhus are there. All the attack, all the defense or damage reduction should always be there. Is armor important for your Pyrrhus here? I don't really think so. I would rather focus it on solo attack and solo damage reduction. The only thing you need to do, since this March here is pretty flexible, you can use it exactly as it is in rallies and battlefield or field fights, but you just need to change your solo damage to rally. So your solo damage and damage reduction should be both now for rallies. It's easy to actually do it. So if you're going for rallies, just change it. And it is pretty much important. Imagine if all your 3 heroes didn't, or you didn't use those percentages to your advantage and just let it slide to just solo, and then you're using it on the rally. You'll be missing 3% minimum, if it's just 1%, 3% minimum for both for both attack and damage reduction. But the thing is, this one is damage, so it's pretty much more important. So you're missing 3% already of damage and damage reduction. What if it's really 2%? So it's 6% for attack and defense. Now you can see how important it is really to be actually changing it during rallies. So I know a lot of players that doesn't do that, but here with TITOBODS, you must, I always make sure that you understand how it works so that you can apply it on your own and you can do your own analogy on it. And of course, knowing why is always important for me. So hopefully that helps you out. So if you're in a rally, make sure that all your heroes would be changed to rallies instead of solo battles when it comes to the talents. So for your mount and adornments, that's not what we're going to talk about. For your mounts, it's pretty easy to actually know what you want for your Pyrrhus. You always want that Spirit Bond. If not Spirit Bond, then Army Thunder. So those two is what you must not miss on your Pyrrhus. You can use the other mount that has damage on it when you are in solo battle, or maybe when you are in the rallies. It depends on what you want to use between the two, since it has different functions. But for me, just to be safe, not to always switch your mounts, you just want to have like Spirit Bond or the Army Thunder. So for your adornments, it's pretty interesting for me that I'm getting a little bit better damage for Thunder, maybe just because of the lack of the RNG. But I will recommend 100% is calculation. Calculation for me is better on Pyrrhus than any other adornments that you have or ornaments that you have. And I'm still experimenting on the Thunder, but I do experience a huge damage output sometimes on Thunder when everything clicks and collides at the same perfect timing. So those are the adornments that I want you to use for your Pyrrhus. Now for your Confucius, what I use on his mount is pretty much basic healing armor plus like lifesaver. If you have combinations of the three with healing armor, lifesaver, and protection, I think, and the other one as I think, plus it is a strategy here, you will really have a good time with your Confucius. Now if you don't have combinations of skills of healing, what is the main priority for your Confucius? For me, the main priority here is actually your lifesaver, because you will have every time that activations. And as I've said, this hero has multiple heals. If this is a regular hero, like for example Zhuge which doesn't have the frequency of how Confucius actually heals, what I would rather have is healing armor, or the other one that actually increase the healing of the hero. So those are the amount that I will use. But since I have like the luxury of healing armor plus lifesaver, this is what I chose. Now for the adornment, I would rather have really just defensive here, so I would get resistance for myself. If I'm going to be in a rally, for example, I will still use maybe resistance, depending on the level of your resistance. But you can also use a mutual aid. Mutual aid will provide healing, extra healing for your Confucius, or healing effects for your Confucius. Plus, it will also provide you with damage reduction. So those are the two rings that I want you to use. Now for your Charlemagne, you can either do an offensive or defensive one, but here I chose to be more defensive. You can see here I have Perseverance and Fearless. So Fearless though would be really useless in the rallies, to be honest, because it's just solo battle. But maybe I will change that in the future. But this is what I have right now. Since I have both, I can be good in the battlefield with this one. So I have defense, 100% defense right away of 2.66%, plus another troop normal attack damage taken reduction, which is 5.52%, which is pretty good, especially if you are up against Lupus. And as I've said, this hero or this march is pretty good against might heroes, and this will only add to that overall value of the troop. So I have only here armor, which helps, as I've said, on your lofty mountains defense also. But if I have other better horses or mounts, what I would do, I would rather get sometimes the lifesaver here, in my opinion. The downside though of lifesaver is it doesn't have that eternal damage reduction. It will only have it for 3 seconds, and then once you have activated again your healing, which is for me the activation chances of the war tactics isn't pretty good unless you have both war tactics and bloodthirst, that I can recommend the lifesaver. But in this scenario, I think the Fearless is a little bit way better when it comes to the overall value. Plus, it's, as I've said, it has perseverance. And of course, for the adornments, I also use resistance for a little bit more defense. So those are what I use. So if you're going to ask why I changed from my natural selection to actually resistance, I would say it's because of the overall value of defense, that I value defense right now. The thing with natural selection is it's hard to actually time it with the activations already of your trample from Pyrrhus. And there is like 6 seconds, I think, that you don't have anything. You don't have defense, you don't have extra attack from your natural selection, while rather here, having resistance, you will always have that assurance of 3% damage reduction throughout the battle. And on the first instance, of course, of the fight, 3 instance of skill damage, you cannot really be bursted right away because of that extra damage reduction. And of course, damage reduction taken again by 6% extra for the first 18 seconds. And then after 18 seconds, that's when your 3% will kicks in. So that's actually how I view this whole march. Hopefully, I did give you a little bit of information on how this build works. And if you are curious about how we did end up getting our Confucius over here, click on the video on your screen right now to actually see us unlock Confucius, explain how it works, and see our previous build that we have with Jugliang. And as always, squad, have a great day to everyone. This is TITOBODS, and I will see you in the next one.